Welcome to Silicon Valley After Dark, AI Edition. Raj, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing great. Rajesh, it's a beautiful Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening after dark. We're doing it a day early because it's Memorial Day weekend here in the United States. So
Yes.
why not talk a little bit before the vacation really starts full swing for the 3-day Memorial Day weekend. So
Yeah.
lots going on in AI, of course. Another week in Silicon Valley, and lots happening.
Yeah, Eric. I mean, look, any day of the week is a crazy busy week. Not only a week, but any busy day. And this week has been particularly, I think, like chock-a-block with news, actually, news and development. So I'm super excited, actually, to talk about all the stuff that's going on.
AI and the vendors have matured a little bit, right? We're seeing some coalition of what's actually happening in the big 5 or 6 AI platforms, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think I mean, we could open up open our discussion with just what Elon Musk did, right? Like, he is giving compute to Anthropic. Actually, he's renting his Colossus 2 stuff that he built in Memphis, instead of using it for, I guess, for their own XAI purposes. We don't know what's the breakup or if he's giving all of the compute available, but he's renting it to Anthropic. And the whole thing about data centers in space that he's pitching with SpaceX is sort of nicely aligned.
What I heard is that he's leasing out 2 because he's built 3, and he's moving all of XAI to 3 now. Right, he's got a bigger data center with newer machines, bigger GPUs, and that he's actually leasing 2 because he's now ready to transition to 3.
But the fact of the matter is, almost every player worth their salt is capacity constrained. So
right.
If XAI is not capacity constrained, it tells you something about their ability to use their own resources, right? It's not like it's not like Google is renting out its compute. I mean, of course, for GCP and AWS and all of these guys, of course, have to decide how much to use for their own training purposes and so on, right? And what to put out on the cloud for others to use. But still, I think the fact that Elon decided to partner. He's done 2 partnerships, I think, which is kind of relevant, right? Here, one is renting out compute to Anthropic, right?
Right.
The second one, I think, that's relevant is Cursor, right? And so basically putting an arrangement together to buy Cursor in some sort of a deal over the next few months, basically post IPO of SpaceX. It feels like, one, he's entering into the application layer, coding, of course, being the first killer use case that that has kind of panned out for AI. So he didn't have any foothold there. So Cursor is the sort of tip of the spear for him, right, on the application layer side. And then on the infra, idea of renting out the compute to Anthropic, and then I think he made a statement earlier today saying that, hey, he's talking to other people too, several other players to rent out compute. So he's becoming this sort of compute provider, and that kind of gels nicely with this whole data centers in space story.
Right. I mean, I was going to say that's the other big story there, is that he's basically consolidated XAI into SpaceX, right? And SpaceX, XAI, and one of the other ones. I don't know.
Then, of course, there's Tesla, of course.
But Tesla remains
still
independent.
Separate,
He brought XAI, SpaceX, and one other one together, and then he's IPOing SpaceX. So he's bringing those all together, and you can see that he's thinking AI data center in space, right? That the SpaceX is going to be delivering huge amount of solar powered
compute,
to build the models in space and then ship them down to us mortals and planet.
So the third one was actually Twitter, right? Like, so he merged X with XAI first, and then he merged that with SpaceX, basically. So that was like a 3.
Now that could be a cash crunch, right? It could be something that we're discovering that maybe he's looking at IPOing because they need dollars to keep this up, right? It's hard to know. And now they're leasing some of their capacity, Or maybe they're just going to be in the leasing business.
Yeah. I think by all accounts, I think we are going to be capacity constrained on the compute side and on the power side, consequently, over the next few years, for sure, right? Like that's how it's looking. So he's being smart in becoming a core infra player, right? So it's actually extremely smart. But yes, he's getting paid a ton of money from Anthropic. I mean, I think the deal is what, $1.25 billion a month, and that's what Anthropic is going to pay SpaceX every month, I think, through for the next 2-3 years, if I'm not wrong. So I mean, this is massive numbers, right? Unprecedented in some ways, because Anthropic is whatever 4-year-old company, and that's actually in a position to pay that kind of money on a monthly basis. And of course, it's making revenues. It's actually expected to hit profitability actually in the next few months, which is mind blowing.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that we should talk about is profitability, right? Like NVIDIA announced their earnings, right? And then everybody's looking at when is OpenAI going to be profitable? When is NVIDIA? How's NVIDIA doing?
Yeah.
How is the AI profitability story pulling out here, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like Anthropic made some moves here.
Actually, yeah. So I think NVIDIA, amazing, right? Like what a quarter as usual, right? Like they are really killing it, but I think the market expectations are just so high that it's, I think Jensen is having a hard time meeting those expectations. And you know, if you think about, they have, I think it is 80% year-on-year growth, right? So that's kind of massive. He announced the $80 billion buyback, right? And so all kind of really massive kind of numbers and traction. And I think he talked up the whole CPU angle as well, which makes sense, right? And we should sort of step into that in a bit. But just like GPU versus CPU, right? I mean, NVIDIA had its ascent in a time when training was like the workload that was the majority workload from an AI standpoint. And now we are kind of moving into this world where training is going to be smaller and smaller part of the overall compute workload, right? And inference is going to be the big driver, right? So hence the Grok acquisition and So
that's what I'd say. As people are using it more and more, it is less about training and more about just coming up with capacity, for inference across the globe, right? And it's huge. The number is just massive.
I mean, the numbers are completely massive, right? Like, so, I mean, on that count, honestly, some of this is feeling like, hey, are we coming to a market top here, right? Like, because there's just so much, I don't know whether the word is froth, right? It's hard to tell what's real, what's not, right? Like, because there's such massive memory, I mean, demand. Yeah.
So let's refocus on Anthropic talking about being profitable.
Right. So, I mean, I think anecdotally and what we are hearing, right, in the open market, right, like they are reporting great numbers, right, in their investor updates. They are talking about, if I'm not wrong, from a run rate perspective, they are adding about $2.5 billion. No, they're adding $2.5 billion every 2 weeks, something like that, from a run rate perspective. Like it's like massive, right? So the speed at which they're growing is mind blowing, right? And I think they did in Q1. OpenAI just announced today that they did about $6 billion in revenue, and Anthropic, I think they announced 5.5 or something like that. So neck to neck, really, right? But that's from year ending March 31st. We are in whatever, May 15th now or 20th. So, this thing is moving so fast. But Anthropic, I think one thing it is able to do very well right now is just monetize its tokens, right? So all of these guys are putting tokens on tap, right, essentially. So I pay $100 a month or $20 a month, and then any overages you have, you pay separately, basically, right? Like, so that's like a very nice business model, which is panning out really well for these guys.
In the market, did they actually say they think they're going to be profitable at a given time?
That's what they said, actually. Yeah, they're going to be profitable in the next few months, actually. Yeah, right. That's what they said, which was like, honestly, like crazy hard to believe, because, a company with such massive capital costs is actually in a position to become profitable is just like, wow, it's mind-blowing.
And that dovetails into the Microsoft announcement that there's a rumor out there that Microsoft's going to back away from Anthropic tokens, right?
Right. Yeah, so I was just reading, there's some stuff on Twitter about Microsoft is training under the cost. Actually, they're spending about over $2,000 per employee per month on Claude credits, I believe. So it's becoming a little too much, and they are prompting people over the next 3-4 weeks to move to to their GitHub CLI. Is what the rumors are talking about. And if that's true, it dovetails very well with what the CTO, I believe, of Uber had mentioned a few weeks ago. And he said that they covered the number of, they consumed their Claude credits, the whole 2026 credits that they had signed up for in the first quarter, basically in the first 3 months of 2026. So like crazy usage, people are really going all out and using it, right? And I think, there's just tremendous capability that is getting unlocked naturally. And so I think there's this whole classic Jevons paradox in action, honestly. Like, what we were speculating on a year ago is actually coming to fruition here now. As things become easier to do, people are just like really, cranking the machine up more and just using it more. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, and it does mean that, one, there's profitability on the OpenAI was talking about being profitable now as well. There's rumors of them. Everybody's now starting to say, hey, we're going to break even, or we're going to make money, so therefore we can raise more capital to buy more server capacity.
Right. I don't think OpenAI's mental model and economics, I think, are both different, right? So just for sort of contrast, I believe the total, this was true about at the beginning of the year, Anthropic's total users about 3 months ago was equal to the number of users that ChatGPT had just in Texas alone, right? So, there's like very vast difference in the kind of numbers that both of these players are dealing with, right? And I think Sam Altman's approach has been very different from Dario, right, at Anthropic. Dario has been very pragmatic, practical. In his pod with Dwarkesh, for example, there was a bit of a lengthy discussion around, hey, if I commit for too much compute, I might go bankrupt, so I'm not going to do that, right, sort of thing, right? And Sam Altman, absolutely in a different camp, right? Like, he's signed up compute agreements, chips, etc. for like big time, right? Like ever since even last year, right? So I think the mental model of how they're approaching the business is totally different. So I don't think OpenAI is going to be profitable anytime soon. I don't know the numbers, of course, right? But Anthropic, I think, has mentioned that they're going to be profitable. So you're looking at businesses of two different sort of kinds here, right? And Anthropic, of course, is getting all of its dollars right now from companies, basically B2B. So they're kind of going deep into B2B. It's working out well. The whole suite of like chat and co-work and Claude Code. They have definitely nailed the interface and the quality of the output, etc. So there's a lot going for them. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yep.
Anyway,
well, at the same time, Dell Tech World was last week, and it was actually this week. It wrapped up yesterday, right? Mm-hmm. And Michael Dell was there. Jensen Huang was there.
Oh, really?
And they made big announcements, and Dell is now starting to just provide the NeoCloud vendors, rack and stack machines with Blackwell's GPUs in them. Not much CPU. Dell's actually in the business of delivering rack of GPU to the NeoCloud vendors, right?
Right.
And, that's also a play, right? Where just go after some cloud vendors that are very specific with what they're giving the guys that need capacity. So
yeah. No, I'm just looking up Dell's stock price. I think it's up in the 1 year it's up 125%. So I know it had gone up.
Yeah.
Now I know the reason, I guess.
Right. And the stocks have all been moving.
Of course, that is true.
And anybody that's in this space is even data center
everything
power management vendors are going, rack vendors are going. anybody in the data center business is actually having a great year.
That's totally true.
And NVIDIA earnings was announced last night, right? And they went from a 1 cent dividend to a 25-cent dividend, right?
Right.
And their revenue grew to like $80 billion a quarter, right? Which is just, that number is just
insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
But there's some circular patterns going on where they're buying from each other. So hard to know when this elevator is going to hit the top floor, right? But as long as people are still using it, and you talk to people that are inference, we just don't have an understanding of how much inference demand there will be, right?
Yeah, well, I think a couple of, I tease about the thing in two ways, right? So the elevator is definitely going up and up and up, right? And I think one thing is clear, right? I mean, demand is continuing to explode, right? And even my own personal usage, etc., that I see, I can tell there is value to what is being done, right? But I think the stock markets are also, on the other hand, overextended, right? Like, so if you do just the classic discounting cash flow kind of analysis on any stock, like it just, like some of these are just insane, right? Like overpriced like crazy, right? So if and when there's a correction, maybe increase in interest rates, etc., the wind could blow out of the sails and boom, it could come down. Not because of demand is going away. I don't think so. I think AI demand is real, right? I think it's definitely here to stay. But just, the way things are progressing, I think there is definitely some froth in the market. But Eric, to your point about Dell selling just GPU racks, right? I think there is an interesting stratification in the inference layer also, inference/training, I guess, right? Like, CoreWeave, I believe, is more of a bare metal kind of player, right? They provide you the GPUs, you go figure out the software, how you deploy, run it, etc. Versus like a Nebius is more of a software platform, right? So they of course have data centers, but really they are providing GPUs as a service, if you will, right? Like, meaning a software platform on which you can run workloads for developers. So two different models right there, I think, in how people are approaching things. Yeah. So, but that's super interesting. Yeah.
And then filings. I think it was.
Oh yeah. So the big news this week, honestly, earlier this week was. So there's a fund called there's a guy called Leopold Aschenbrenner, and he runs a fund called Situational Awareness, and this is just a 24-year-old kid, but I think that fund is now worth, if we actually tease apart the filings correctly, I believe that fund is about 6-7 billion now. It is not 13 billion as many people have reported, because 13Fs report notion values of options and so on, so there's some distortion there that people have not accounted for, but he has massively grown that portfolio. I think just under a year and a half ago, his portfolio was just 250 million, right? So 250 to like a 6 or 7 billion size portfolio. Amazing growth, right? And he has done it on the back of very prescient bets, right? So it's been amazing. But I was looking forward to his 13F earlier this week, and I was amazed to see how many people were in the same boat. Like, everybody's waiting for his filing, and when it came out, I mean, Twitter was like just completely. There was all of his holdings went viral, and what he bought, what he kept, what he sold, right? And whatever he sold suffered as well, actually, because there was a little bit of a game theory sort of situation going on. Other people dropped it as well. So anyway, I mean, we can go into the specific names, but that was pretty interesting.
Let's transition a little bit about constraints, right? So there are constraints. There's people constraints. There is power constraints, right? Like, there are definitely constraints. And one of the things that Intuit did was Intuit laid off, 3,000 people, right, in order to get resourcing to start building AI into their products. And I've always wondered why my tax, this year, why tax just didn't have an AI, right? Like, you would think that AI would just take me through my total tax return, ask me a couple questions and go. And so this is where Intuit's heading, right?
Yeah. And I think replacing human labor. I mean, nobody wants to call it that. I believe a public company CEO yesterday announcing layoffs, I think he made that mistake. But the truth of the matter is, people are replacing human intelligence with compute intelligence, if you will, basically for the same dollars, right? If I'm paying $10 million for human capital, right, which equates to whatever X number of employees, I could use that potentially in a cost-effective way for tokens, basically, right? But of course, it's TBD how the economics work on this, right? So that's not entirely clear at this point, just given that compute costs are ballooning. But I think very soon we are going to see some hybrid management of models, if you will, right? Like everything need not go to a large language model. Some things can be handled by a small language model. Some things can be handled by cheaper open source models that's running internally, right? Some things go to Anthropic on an API, right? So I think there's going to be routers, if you will, and there's a company called OpenRouter in the space that potentially could be a player in doing things like that, right? So we're going to see some now interesting things emerge around token efficiency. How can I more efficiently use tokens, right? But yeah. I mean, look, you mentioned Intuit. I'd already almost forgotten about it, but I think yesterday there was Cloudflare. Today, this thing is Meta, right? Mm-hmm. And there's at least one or two more that I'm missing. So, I mean, it's yeah. And unfortunately,
I feel like just like the chip industry during the COVID, where you couldn't get memory chips and you couldn't get any kind of chips for any kind of desktop machine because COVID made everybody buy machines. I feel like AI is sucking the money out of everything, right? And it isn't that they don't have work or they don't have features they'd like coders to do, but in the reality, they have to pivot to AI, and AI costs a lot of money. And so if you're a company and you look at your budget, what's your biggest budget cost?
Of course, yeah.
Labor,
yeah.
Right? So where's an easy place to go get some money to buy machines and gear and data centers and tokens? Right. Your staff. So you look at your staff and you go, hey, let's trim 20%. Let's do it over 3 years. So every year you lay off another 5 or 6%. You get attrition during that. And so as an executive, you're looking at how do I make this without tanking my earnings, right? Yeah. And the answer is you cut back on labor costs so that you can invest.
But I think that's true, but it's only part of the story, in my opinion, right? If you take 100 employees in an average large organization, right? Maybe 20 of them are sort of leaning into AI, really experimenting with it and doing things with it. Maybe 50 or 70 of them are neutral, right? And then another 10 or 20 might be, I hate AI, like I don't like what it's doing. I might lose my job, etc. Like having a negative sort of thing about AI, right? Now, whoever is not leaning in or is even neutral are candidates potentially for that budget going to tokens, unfortunately, right? Like that's really, so I think the best strategy today for you as an employee is to really lean in strongly into an AI, and there's amazing benefits, like really benefit / productivity improvements that you can get with what it can do. I mean, it's insane actually. So anyways, right? So I do think organizations are going to sort of cut headcount for those who are not showing the interest in actually in using tokens. It's very simple, and people are monitoring token consumption.
I think that's completely wrong.
Really?
Yeah, because I went through executive training. Okay. Because I was an executive at one point and reported to executive staff at big companies in tech. And we went through executive training. And what we did was we played a Monopoly game where we all got on teams. There were like 6 per team. And you'd sit around in a luxury retreat center, right? And you'd be at the table. And they gave us kind of like a game set, right? Where you had chips that was your money, right? You had your chips with your capital, infrastructure. You had chips that was your labor, right? Or your human capital. And you had X amount of chips, and then you had to build a strategy of how to manage your company. And you had sales, and you had revenue, you had your whole thing, and it was actually modeled after the company I worked on. So there were real revenue targets, real strategy. And then they gave you a 3-year plan on how would you go after the next 3 years of revenue.
Sure.
And you know what you had to do? You had to take your capital, you had to take your infrastructure, you had to take your human capital, and then you had to make bets, right? And it was a finite board. You didn't have you could go to finance and you could say, I want to borrow extra capital. Right. But you basically had to play this game where if you bought too much capital, you'd have too much interest payments, right? Or your stock would tumble because you didn't make profit that you're supposed to make. So the whole thing, and then it was a simulated game. And what you quickly learned was when there was any innovation that needed to be done, you had to pay for it from somewhere.
Sure.
And you know where the only place you could really go get extra money? You could go to the markets and try to do a stock offering or, do some more money. But you know what the big pile there was? Yeah, human capital. And the reality is, as an executive, you know that you can put pressure on any human-based company, put labor pressure on that, and you get more. You just get more.
Yeah,
and so you squeeze. And you can, you've worked at big companies before, or I have, and I know that in any team, I could get rid of a third of the workers, and we wouldn't, if everybody more stressed, everybody would work harder, but we'd get it done, right? And that's what's actually happening, is executives at the boards are trying to figure out how to reinvent themselves, how to get AI in board, and they're not sitting around going, oh, the staff is just lazy, or the staff isn't trained on AI, or AI gets me more. No, they're just looking at it going, hey, I got to pull resources from somewhere in order to make this pivot.
Right.
This is the way I'm going to do it.
But look, I mean, the way I would characterize it is there could be one world where I don't give any AI to any of my employees, right? And it should grow at the same rate as it grew, let's say 3 years ago, right? Like same growth rate, right? So that is world one where nobody wants to live now. They want to live in a world where your employees
Intuit recognizes that if they don't get AI embedded in their products, somebody else will put them out of business.
Of course.
Right. So it's not about, well, I just wanted my employees to get more efficient. No, they have to make their products AI enabled or they're not going to have products anymore.
Well, sure.
So how do I get my products to have AI? Oh, I need a lot of money. I need to buy servers. I need to buy AI infrastructure. I need to do a deal with Anthropic where I'm going to use their engines in Intuit and pay a royalty to them. Sure. Where's that money going to come from? The money to enable AI in products have to come from somewhere. And the easiest way for them to do it is just go, well, where's my big pool of money? Oh, I'm spending 90% of my money in human capital. So let's just squeeze the human capital, wring some money out of that, and invest it in AI. And that's what they're doing. And that's going on industry after industry after industry. That's what
I mean, AI is going to be used in two ways, right? One, like the CrowdStrikes and the ServiceNows of the world or Intuit. Every SaaS company has to try to integrate AI into their product,
that's right.
Which they're absolutely trying to do, right? That is one.
Right.
But number two, they have to equip their employees because everyone knows now that using AI, the productivity goes up. So whatever it is that you're doing, either building your product,
I don't think they have to equip their employees. They have to get it in their products.
No, but like if you're a product manager who's building a product into it, don't you want that person to have like AI products that help him make a better PM, better engineer?
I'm kind of second or tertiary. You could say, oh, I want to make my labor a little bit more effective or more effective. But reality right now, they're all just dealing with how do I quickly get capital in order to make my products not fall off a cliff. And I guarantee you ServiceNow and Intuit and everybody else right now, those executives are going like, whoa, we're going to have to build AI into our products. How do we get that? Where's the big bucket? The big bucket is in talent. I'm not saying that everybody wants to roll AI out into their coding efforts or into their thing, but that's not what's actually happening right now.
No, but
the big layoffs right now are being driven by capital management.
So I mean, people are measuring AI usage, right? I know that, right? For example, a very large company like Meta is publicly known to be doing token maxing, right? With token maxing meaning, okay, they have a leaderboard of who's doing very well and so on. And I believe that happens at Oracle as well, for example, right? There's a leaderboard. So what's the idea of a leaderboard? The idea is, hey, show me, are you using tokens or not? And I know explicitly many of the companies where there's a check-in on how much tokens you're using as an engineer, right? Like, so that is an example of where, you know, you are being asked to use AI as an engineer, for example, at least for the coding use case. where if you don't use, we know that your productivity is lower, we don't want you, basically. Simple, right? We'll go find somebody else who will be 2 times as productive because, or 5 times as productive because he uses AI.
I think that's cover for, we want to make everybody AI smart so that we can build AI into our products. And if we have a bunch of engineers that don't even use AI, then how are they going to build it into our products and be AI leaders in our products? It's less about you're not being as fast a coder as the guys that use AI, because we all know that a great coder is a great coder. And then I got bad coders, and I got people that don't even know how to architect themselves out of a paper bag.
Right.
So I still think that instance is, I want my people to be AI savvy, so I'm going to gamify it and make sure everybody's excited about showing up on a leaderboard and making sure that I'm paying attention to you using AI, because I want you to be AI savvy. But where I need money to build AI into my products and buy data centers.
I mean, look, hell or high water, if you're a SaaS company, you have no choice but to re-architect your product to be AI, to be as AI enabled / as competitive to AI native products as possible, right? There's just no 2 ways about that. And of course, yes, companies need money for that, right? Or to pump money to make the product to go in the direction of AI, right? And that they can do with existing resources, honestly, Eric. Like, listen.
When I played that game, there are no you're paying salary, you've got infrastructure. We need to pay Anthropic now.
Sure.
$10 billion. Where does that come from?
Sure. Compute.
I could do a stock offering, get some more capital in. I can borrow it from a bank, or I could lay off, 10% and take that money and invest it. And they have actually said this in public.
See, some of these companies are already generating healthy revenue cash flows, right? Like, for example, ServiceNow, right?
Yeah,
like, so their customers are paying for the tokens.
That's ServiceNow doesn't sell tokens. They're not selling services with tokens at all right now. My guess is right now they're trying to figure out how to enable AI in their products.
No, they're already, at least their CEO claims it, right? Like, so, right? Like, I mean, he claims that, they're an AI control tower, which of course is a bunch of PR kind of language, right? But do they have functionality within there, right? Where, that basically pings an Anthropic or some other models in the back end, right? And therefore incurs token costs? I think yes, right?
Oh, I thought they were tokenizing. If I use their things, I buy tokens, and I would then consume tokens, and nobody's offering up tokens as
no. What I mean is in the process of using ServiceNow's products, right? Like where you use AI, right? You might be hitting a third-party provider in the back end. Basically, it could be OpenAI, Anthropic, or somebody else, right? But the point is, I think so. The basic idea is, I think we are saying, hey, companies need to free up resources, capital. But here's the thing: in that same, your game that you were talking about at the exec center. Now, if you have $100, right, and if you invested that $100, and you're going to make $150 next year by putting it in with human resources, but if you did it with, let's say, human plus AI, right, half the humans and the other half AI, and you actually could make $250, right, your choice is going to be clear. Of course I'm going to do the human plus AI. So my point is there is a little bit of that dynamic going on as well.
I think the immediacy of it is they're just looking for ways to get capital.
I see.
They're just hey, we need it, and I know this because when we ran a company like that, you're like, where do I get capital from?
Right. Of course. I can
reduce my, and we did a lot of hiring over the last 3 years because of COVID and all that. They've been laying off for to get at capital. And the reason they were doing it also is that interest rates went up. And as soon as interest rates went up, the big tech companies didn't have access to free capital.
Right.
Capital was actually getting expensive. So what did they start doing? They started laying off.
Right.
Because they
there was overhiring that had happened previously in a low,
cost of capital got expensive.
Yeah.
Where do I get my capital if I can't borrow it? I can let go of some people. That gets me free capital again.
Right. I mean, that was definitely the case with Square, right? When Square laid off almost 5,000 people, I think I mean, they made an explicit statement saying that, hey, look, we had overhired.
And the reality
right?
is, if I looked at some of the tech companies in the Bay Area, like Google or Facebook or the places that have been laying off, they hire the best of the best, right? Nobody over at Facebook is stupid. Right? These guys, I know programmers at Facebook. I know programmers at Facebook that got let go. And they were the smartest guys I've ever met. Right? So it isn't that, these programmers just weren't able to adjust to the AI model. No, they're all capable of using AI. They just needed to free up capital, and they're just letting go of people to get at capital.
No, but Eric, they still need to make some choices about who to let go, right? Like, okay, I need the money for deploying data centers in Meta's case, for example.
That's my point.
But they're still going to make some choices on who to let go.
Oh yeah, right? I'm not saying they're not making choice. I'm saying, but the reason they're doing it is not because they had slackers that weren't using AI, or it isn't the AI. It's not even the AI is making everybody more efficient, so now I can let go of 10 or 20%. It's I need the capital. I have to make this pivot. I have to make the pivot for my products. I have to embed AI in it. And so therefore, I'm going to let go of 20%, and then I'm going to reinvest that capital. And that's what Intuit published. So this is not something that they didn't say.
I mean, look, one category of people, what the money is needed for from an AI perspective is the SaaS companies like ServiceNow and Intuit, where they need to embed AI into their product, right? That's one category. The other category is folks like, let's say, Meta, right? Where they need to free up cash because their free cash flow is like going down the tubes, basically.
Sure.
Or Oracle, for example. Oracle and Facebook fall into category where they need to figure out, get cash from somewhere to become basically a hyperscaler kind of
that's
product, right? That's a different. That's not too many people. But I feel
that's happening in the whole industry. Like in the software Silicon Valley tech industry, they're all doing this in order to get capital to be able to pivot to AI.
Yeah, I mean, but like a capital infrastructure problem is different. Like Oracle or Meta, the kind of problem that is facing, right, is kind of very different. And they have raised money from the public markets, to your point, right? Like they've done bond offerings and all of that, actually, right? Both Meta and Oracle. So it's interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, we'll have to see.
So if you're a software engineer out there and you were let go, don't feel bad. Don't think your job's going to go away.
Right.
Just realize that there's capital allocation going on, and we're going to have to work through this until
but
people already make the investment into AI. Then there'll be plenty of features to build.
No, look, that nobody's job is quote unquote going away, right? Like,
well, I beg the question. People that just got laid off at Facebook and Intuit and whatever would say, "My job went away."
No, like, sure, right? Like, look, I think. I mean, I don't know, if we talk to any engineer that's using Cursor or Claude Coder, etc., I mean, most people now say code generation is a waste of time, right? Like, meaning writing code, right? It's actually reviewing the code where there's the bottleneck now, right? Like, so people on average, I believe, I don't know, again, look, I'm not but I think anything in the numbers in the realm of, let's say, 3x to 10x would seem reasonable. Nobody would balk at saying, hey, you're 3x more productive or 10x more productive by using Claude Code or Codex.
I was at a conference last week, my own conference where I work, and I talked to some people, and you know what they said? They said, honestly, we get 10x improvement on our engineers, right? We used to be able to get 100 features done. Now we get 1,000 features done.
Okay.
We have a list of like 20,000 features we still need to do that we can't get to.
Okay.
So it isn't that they don't have.
No, but was it 20,000 even 5 years? Like, I mean, even pre-AI it was.
They have so many things they need to do that they still can't get at. That they got a 10x improvement. Right, but they're keeping all their programmers because
they have more to do. Is the point?
They have tons to do, and they were like, and not only that, but AI gives you even more ideas to do.
Exactly, that's the Jevons paradox in action.
So it becomes a supply-demand curve thing.
Right.
When the price goes down because all your programmers, you get to do more. The demand goes up for new features and new functionality, and it's a race against your competitors. So the reality is what this guys were saying, CIO of companies, is like, we're not letting any of our coders go. We just get way more work from everybody, and we have a ton of work to do, and we can outpace our competitors now. But they're outpacing us because so the guys are letting go of engineers because they needed capital. Because I would say that there's still a lot of demand for features out there.
So, but Eric, then what would you say about the folks you spoke to at the conference? Do they need capital for tokens? Where are they getting their capital for tokens, for example, or like baking AI into their products?
They were comfortable with their capitalization.
That's right. That's right. So it depends. So then maybe it's like company to company, depending on how you're capitalized.
And I look at the Bay Area and I see these big giant layoffs, and I'm like, yeah, this is not because they didn't have things to do. This was they needed capital. To your point, buying tokens and buying infrastructure and giving Anthropic or Google millions and $1 billion to enable the AI industry. That's my sense. Now, hey, it's good. It's good. Little debate going on. Love it.
Right.
All right. Okay. So let's get back to business. I know we got to wrap it up here because we've been going for the hour. I like point counterpoint that we've decided to do a little bit up.
Right. Yeah.
That's always fun. We'll see how this plays out. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think unfortunately, layoffs are going to continue, and Dario mentioned this, and unfortunately, like I've been thinking about this for more than a year and a half, didn't really articulate it, or maybe we have in one of these podcasts, but I think we are going into an economy which is going to be K-shaped, what I call one where there's going to be high GDP growth, like GDP growth of 8 to 10%, but like 8 to 10% unemployment on the other side, right? Like, so crazy unemployment, but crazy growth. So it's going to be a very unusual world, right? And that's extremely likely.
Last topic to close it off.
Yes.
Yeah. My favorite company, Apple. Right.
Okay.
Tim Cook stepped up to chairman of the board.
Right?
They gave the CEO job to a hardware engineer.
Right.
And it's leaking out now that they're going to have AI delivered as hardware. Right. So hardware-enabled AI. They're going to market with different pieces of hardware that will deliver the AI to you.
Yes.
Now this is interesting because we all say AI is either a chat, interface or a agentic interface with OpenClaw or Paperclip or these other ones. But what Apple's vision is that AI will be delivered by custom devices.
Yes.
This is going to be really interesting to see how this plays out.
Oh, I am so looking forward to that. I think Apple is in the best position to deliver high quality hardware like that, right? I mean, we have spoken about John Ive and his startup many times over in this podcast, I think, and the startup got acquired by Sam Altman, by OpenAI, and they're working on a device, right? I think the missing link absolutely is a device that will bring the AI to me rather than me going to the AI, right? Like the best I can characterize is like Claude Desktop or Claude Cowork. What you have today is this middleware layer where it just makes me interacting with the AI so much easier, more unified, and so on. Imagine that happening with a earpiece device or with something that I wear, a pendant or something. Who knows what that form factor is going to be, but I think Apple has done such a phenomenal job till date, right, of bringing lovely devices. So I'm stoked. Yeah, I wonder when they're going to release that though.
Well, they're talking about.
I mean, they can barely.
Yeah, there are their foldable phone, the glasses. There've been leaks on all of that.
But they barely can get Siri to work. So that's like, I mean, even Siri, they can barely get that to work. So I don't know.
Yeah, they can give them time. Their idea was they built a lot of tech into the MacBooks and the iPhones around CPU and GPU performance. So their idea is that they're getting ready to flood the market with really innovative AI solutions, and they didn't want to overinvest in Siri while they were getting their hardware story together, right? So now that could just be a leapfrog thing that they're leaking out that hey, they're going that direction. But that's why they made the hardware their hardware engineer their CEO. They didn't do it. They didn't make a software guy the CEO.
Right.
Apple is hardware, and honestly, we haven't seen any innovative hardware devices from Apple for a while. So that's the exciting news for the week.
Awesome.
Rajesh, as always, good to get together with you. We'll be back again next week and talk about After Dark. What's actually happening.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Had a good time. Thank